Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Hi, my Spoonie Sisters. I'm your host, Gracefully Jen, and I am so excited to bring to you a new voice to the podcast. Hi, and welcome to Mariah. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm just excited to have a new person and a new direction on here. I get excited every single time, and I know I tell everyone the same thing every time, but I truly mean it because it's exciting. Do you mind giving us a little introduction about yourself and kind of take us from there?
Sure. I guess I should start without the diagnosis stuff, my personal stuff, and then I'll just go into a little bit of what I'm going through right now.
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Okay, so my name is Mariah, and I am living in San Diego, California, with my husband and two dogs, who actually also has IBD. So I will go into that in a minute. But we are currently in San Diego. We've been here about 5 years. We've moved around the country with my husband's school through his PhD program and stuff. He is a biochemist. So we did a lot of years of school for him in several different places, and originally have come from Florida, and we've been together since high school. So we've kind of grown up together and developed a life, based on those career paths and things like that. I actually went to school for sign language interpreting, which is a very specialized field, and really cool opportunities have come from that. Leading into my struggles with symptoms and then my diagnoses, it became something that was very difficult for me to pursue. Appointment times aren't flexible, and so showing up to different jobs was starting to become more and more difficult. And also, a lot of times, the internal stress of being an interpreter, you aren't an advocate, you aren't able to help the people that you're working with. And a lot of times I was interpreting a lot of medical and seeing a lot of mistreatment of my patients and things like that, which was very hard to internally deal with the stress. So I started working out more and more to combat that stress. And then when we moved to San Diego, I was like, this is one of the biggest fitness places in the world. Why don't I just kind of dive into that passion? So since we moved here, I've been full-time. I think I got certified in personal training somewhere around 2013 or 14. And then we moved here in 2018. So I've been doing fitness full-time since I moved to San Diego. I am a certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor through ACE Fitness, which is one of the bigger organizations in the world. And I am a district fitness leader for San Diego Choose Fitness. So I manage probably close to 100 instructors and coaches at a time and do all of the scheduling for that and all the training and up-leveling. I just became a master trainer for a brand called Warrior Rhythm, which I'm so excited to bring. It is a yoga fusion. So there's a little bit of weights, a little bit of HIIT training, and a yoga base to all choreographed music, which is just powerful and moving. So really excited about those opportunities. I'll start to be able to train other instructors to become certified in that as a master trainer.
That sounds amazing.
So that's kind of on my plate as well lately. And then on top of it all, I started a brand called Invisible Voices, which kind of spurred from my own diagnosis journey and wanting to connect to other people. during COVID, I had a little bit of extra time, like everyone else, and started posting more and more about what I was going through and realized there's an incredible community out there. So just trying, like all of us, to figure out this mess of autoimmune diseases and things like that, and learning so much from the community. So trying to build a space that is comfortable and places that we can share and connect. And so what started as my virtual assistant became my partner. So Kate and I work really hard to try to bring all of that on top of my full-time job and my illnesses. So my life has been a little bit crazy lately, but I'm so thankful for it. And my diagnosis has, given me kind of a new purpose in life. So it's hard and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I'm also glad that it's helped me get to where I am today.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so what year were you actually diagnosed?
Yes. So I started struggling with symptoms when I was actually taking Accutane for acne that I had been struggling with my whole life, which we found out later was undiagnosed PCOS. But I was starting to struggle with GI symptoms. And in 2014, I was in Georgia at the time, and I thought I could do it on my own and just figured out, everybody has food sensitivities. So I was like, let me just cut dairy. Let me just cut gluten. Let me start trying all these things to figure out what was making me feel so bad. And then I realized that it didn't really matter what I ate and what I cut out. And if I ate healthy, I would feel my worst sometimes. And if I had a donut, I was totally fine. So it just didn't make sense to me what I was going through. So finally, I had worked with a nutritionist, and he's like, we've got you doing okay, but you're not able to eat very many things. You really need to go see a doctor. So finally, in 2016, so 2 years of pretty much not being able to eat things and not figuring anything out on my own, I went and got a colonoscopy and got diagnosed with IBD. And it was originally ulcerative colitis. Then a couple years later, I like to say, upgraded me to Crohn's.
Okay, so what does your treatment plan look like for that?
So I have gone through several different iterations of, what to do. Mesalamine has worked best for me for my Crohn's, which is pretty cool because I think normally it does apply more to ulcerative colitis, but it is one of they say like baseline level medications where it's really not a severe level. And I've actually been able to go off of medication a couple times throughout the years. When I first was diagnosed, I had no idea what Crohn's was. I had a cousin with it, and I knew that she got infusions for it and lived a pretty normal life, but we weren't super close through that process. So I didn't really understand what it would entail. I was like, okay, cool. Now I know what it is. I was kind of relieved. I know everybody has a little different emotional experience with the diagnosis. For me, it was like, I've been struggling for 2 years, and now I have a name for it, and I'm sure there's going to be a process to get better. I didn't really realize there, at that moment, there's no cure. There's no, you can definitely manage your symptoms, but it's always going to be there. So all those mixed emotions came in, and I was immediately put on prednisone, which was my first experience with steroids. And I don't know about you, but I go berserk. Like,
Yep.
my husband would come home and like everything was spotless and everything was done and my lists were checked off. And he's like, "Are you okay? Like, can you breathe? Just slow down a minute."
Yeah, I agree. It was so many things. I felt like a crazy person because I wanted to clean all the time. I wanted to eat all the time. The mood swings, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think because I hadn't really been able to eat for 2 years previously, I think I ate everything in the house and then some when I started that. So it's an interesting experience, to say the least.
Absolutely. And I don't think the doctors brace us for that at all.
No, I had no idea that it was going to be so intense.
Yeah.
And I did not sleep very much at all. I think that was a shorter stint. I want to say maybe 4 weeks at the full dose, and then obviously the taper. So that was a pretty short round. So then I moved to Penn State for my husband to do his postdoctorate after that. So I actually had a really hard time finding a doctor in Pennsylvania. It's a very small town, and everywhere I was at had over a year wait list to get a new patient onboarded. So I actually kept my doctor in Georgia and never saw them. I just got the prescriptions for the year. I actually went off medication during that time and was doing pretty well after the steroids. Everything was pretty much in remission. So thankfully, I got through those couple years in Penn State. Then when we moved to San Diego after that, during the process of the move and the stress and the not being able to control what I was eating for the 2 weeks moving out here and things like that, I did end up flaring pretty badly in 2018 when we moved here. So thankfully, I was able to get in with a doctor really quickly here because I was in urgent care. That was probably my worst flare. However, I have not been hospitalized. They said that if I hadn't have taken such good care of myself with my nutrition and my hydration, that they probably would have hospitalized me because I was going to the bathroom like 10 to 11 times a day at that point. But because I was still somewhat healthy, they were able to get me into a doctor, do another colonoscopy, and go on another round of prednisone, get me on medication. That one was my longest round of prednisone, which I believe was like almost 6 months, which was rough. I gained a ton of weight. I didn't sleep for most of that time and was, we were settling in a new city, trying to find jobs, all of those things happening at once. So that's kind of the short version of my diagnosis. In 2018, when I got here, they upgraded it to Crohn's. I also was still struggling with weight gain the next year, even after being off of prednisone. And I'm in fitness, so I work out several hours a day, and I, am really good about my nutrition. And I was still not heavy, but heavier than I knew I should be. So I went to an endocrinologist, thankfully was referred by my GI. And at first he offered to refund me my copay because I was in the wrong place. He was a weight loss specialist and I was not severely overweight. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So talk about medical gaslighting. I basically was like, no, I get it. I'm not 400 pounds, but I am this much more than I should be. I've been working for the last 6 months to get this weight off. I think there's something wrong hormonally. I need you to run some tests. I do bring my husband to all of my appointments now, one, because he's a PhD, so he has some of that background that he can help me with. But also, I've just found it better when I say I'm like really sick. Doctors are like, oh, uh-huh. And then when he says, no, like she's really sick, they're like, oh, all of a sudden they need to take me more seriously. So I have found that to be helpful, even though I hate that I have to do it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm right there with you, and we should not have to do that. But I definitely feel you. I feel like when my husband is with me at an appointment or at the hospital, they take me so much more seriously.
I hate it. I hate it. But I'm very thankful for his support and, that he is there. But I basically went in and I said, I've told countless doctors over the travels around the country that I've had severe cramping. I used to, in high school, like pass out and throw up and all kinds of things when I would be, and that was normal. They put me on birth control to help reduce the symptoms, and that's it.
That is not okay. That is
No,
not okay.
it's not normal for anyone listening. That is not normal.
No.
So I finally did get him. I told him about the severe cramping, the hair growth, hair loss, all kinds of things. And he's like, oh, interesting, and started to see. So I did get the blood test done. I had obviously countless times of blood tests being done for my Crohn's and everything, but I got it done specifically with the sugar test in between. So they check your blood, then they make you drink this syrup of sugar, and then they test it again, like I want to say it was an hour or two later. And he's like, you are very right. PCOS is polycystic ovary syndrome. It presents very differently in every person, which is why it's so missed in our medical system. But for me, it is a high insulin production. So my sugar, whenever I was tested without the sugar test, my blood sugar is normal because my body has figured out how to adapt to the overproduction of insulin. But when they looked at what the insulin is doing during that time, it's about 5 times higher than it should be. So, yeah. He apologized at my follow-up visit. He was like, I'm so sorry that I didn't take you more seriously. I don't know how you're not 300 or 400 pounds. And I was like, I told you, like I work really hard. And so that was nice to have an apology, I guess, but that's been kind of my diagnosis journey.
So looking back, what do you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey with all this? Calling all Spoonies. As a host of a chronic illness podcast, nothing lights up my day more than hearing from you, our incredible listeners. Whether it's a topic close to your heart that you want us to uncover, or you are keen to show your own journey as a guest on our show, your voice matters. Living with chronic illness can often feel isolating, but through the power of podcasting, we can come together as a community to uplift, educate, and inspire one another. Your stories, insights, and questions drive the conversations we have and the topics we explore. So if there's something on your mind, a story that you are just itching to share, or a guest you'd love to hear from, don't hesitate to reach out. Your voice is not only welcomed here, but celebrated. Let's continue to amplify the voices of those living with chronic illnesses and create a space where everyone feels heard, supported, and empowered. Together, we are stronger.
Probably that it's not up to doctors to help you through it, that you really have to research it, advocate for yourself. It's a lot of work to have invisible illnesses and things that you're going through. I wish that there were just answers that they could hand you, but I've learned more from the community, from reaching out in those connections, from other fellow warriors that have been through things. And I wish I had reached out way earlier on in my journey versus, I really didn't start connecting to anybody else until 2020. So that's a lot of years from 2014 starting to be sick till figuring out that there's so many other people who have done it and already created the paths that we can follow.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I think when we first start having whatever kind of illness, we're dealing with, it does not even occur to us that there is a community out there that we can get involved in. And that's sad, but it does not occur to us. And so many people are struggling for a great length of time before, there's this that I can get involved in, and these people can help lift me up and encourage me.
Exactly. And social media obviously has its downfalls. We all know the negative effects of it. But for us in our community, it has been a huge light in my life and a lifesaver at times when I call and I'm, just really struggling through and I need medical or nutrition advice or things. And, you might go a lot of your life without ever meeting another warrior or spoonie in person, but it's so easy to connect on here.
Well, and I love the fact that, if we're having a weird side effect or symptom from a medication, we can easily reach out to an entire group of people and say, hey, is this normal? Did this happen to you? Should I be concerned? What do you recommend?
Exactly. And my original doctor in Georgia, I want to say she was even a nurse practitioner that eventually saw me and gave me this advice that I regret taking. But she basically recommended an elimination diet where I would eat white rice and turkey or white rice and chicken for all day, every day, and then start to add back in foods to see what I was sensitive to. Now, that by itself, an elimination diet is a very useful tool. She just said at the end of that, like, avoid all the foods that bother you. Well, all the foods bothered me. So for about 3 years, I ate nothing but white rice and chicken or white rice and turkey. I ate white rice cereal, white rice milk. Everything else, if I had like a bite of fruits or vegetables, it would pretty much make me sick. So I just avoided it. It created a huge struggle for me with food and the relationship with food, and mentally I struggled. Then when I would get a little bit sick, because even eating nothing, I would still have symptoms, then I'd be like, well, I feel sick today. I guess I'll just go get a bunch of crappy food that I've been missing for years. So I would binge eat a lot of bad food for me, which I know doesn't logically make any sense. But when you're struggling with those kind of relationships with food and why you're sick, so I should say for 3 years, I almost always ate white rice and turkey, but then I would just binge for a day of like sweets and things that I was craving. Then, of course, I'd end up being sick for weeks. And yeah, so that was the advice that doctor gave me, was avoid fiber and avoid all foods that bother you. So that left me with like 4 foods that I could eat. And yes, I stayed off of medication during that whole time at Penn State, but I really had such a limited window of foods that I could eat. So it wasn't until actually at the end of my stay in Pennsylvania that I connected to another IBD warrior in Pennsylvania who was vegan. And I could not believe that was even possible, since I had been told to avoid all fiber. But I knew in my head, as a fitness person, I was starting to get more and more into fitness, that obviously we need fruits and veggies on our diet to be healthy. And while my symptoms were calmer, when I would try any bite of anything, I would get devastatingly sick. But I knew that my energy was low. I was struggling with all kinds of different other symptoms, joint aches and pains and nerve pains and things like that people don't even realize go along with IBD. Mm-hmm. And so when I started connecting to him, I just asked like how he did it. I don't know if this is what I would recommend for anyone, but he told me to go on a banana diet for a week. Literally, my husband called it the monkey diet. I ate bananas the first day. I felt pretty sick because bananas hadn't really worked for me until then. But after that, I started to feel okay. I started to get more energy because I was finally eating something more than white rice and turkey. And then it was kind of a body reset. And I started incorporating bites of food here and there. And I would start with 1 green bean, and then I would have 2 green beans. And then I just fully switched. So I've been vegan now for several years and feel better than I ever have before. So I know everyone is different, but I highly recommend looking at your fiber, trying to work on increasing your fiber, and obviously talking to nutritionists, dietitians, doctors along the way. There's a really good book called Fiber Fueled that is written by a GI doctor, Dr. Will Bolschowitz, that kind of solidified my decision. I had just done the banana diet and I was working on the transition when it came out. But I, took that book, and everything that he said was basically what I had just experienced with the elimination diet and with the food sensitivities, and building back in those foods to be better acceptable to my palate. I can eat more food now than ever before. I just went home on a trip to Florida, and one of my best friends was like, I never thought I would see you eating this, but I had a poke bowl, and it was, microgreens and beans and potatoes and all kinds of stuff. And she's like, She remembers the days that I brought my rice and turkey to every restaurant we went to avoid any contamination or anything. So it was kind of a cool experience.
That's pretty awesome to be able.
There we go. Maybe.
I have an alarm that keeps trying to go off. So listeners, we keep getting little interruptions because I have an alarm that keeps trying to go off. So I apologize.
I sprung
Okay,
this
so
time
my
on
next,
you, so I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. So my next question for you is, what would be the top 5 things in your Spoonie toolkit?
Ooh, like physical items
It could
or
be, it could be
therapies
anything.
or
It could be anything. It could be a book. It could be a food. It could be anything. What are your top 5 things that you just can't live without?
ooh, I would probably have to go deeper into like thinking about this list because 5 is hard to, we need so much in our life. But off the
We
top
can
of
come
my
back to that
head,
question. We can come back to it.
I can give you my top 5 now. That might change like if I organized it later. But I would say movement for me is huge. Um, Obviously, I'm a fitness professional. I like to work out hard more for my mental health than my physical, even. I feel like I need that release, that stress relief, that break from everything going on to just work out. And it doesn't have to look the same for everyone. If you're not feeling well, if you're not doing well, like do something from your bed, do bed Pilates or go on a walk with the dogs or something just to move your body because it needs it. So movement, probably that book, Fiber Fueled. I recommend it to everyone that I have met with any issues going on. So that would probably be in my toolkit. Cryotherapy is a huge one for me. Any kind of cold therapy, I guess I should say. Cryotherapy or ice plunges, whatever jam. I hate being cold, like literally hate being cold. But I can sit in there for as many minutes as I need to if I know that when I get out, I'm going to feel a million times better. So I have a lot of nerve pain from inflammation in my shoulders, and it always attacks right in my shoulders, and I can't sleep and I have trouble with that. So ice and actually submerging my body or doing the cryotherapy, actually fully getting that inflammation to calm down has been one of the only ways that I find to really overcome that. 2 other things, I guess. Bananas are kind of my safe food and my lifesaver. I don't know if that has anything to do with the week I spent on them. But whenever I flare, bananas are kind of my go-to safe foods. So I probably always bring that with me. And then the Spoonie community. I think that has to be in everyone's toolkit because reaching out to people like you and just learning from everyone in the community and getting support from people who just understand. I love that I can call someone I don't even know. Like, this is our first time talking, and we instantly connect and we instantly have all of this understanding of each other that so many other people just, friends and family, they can support and they can love, but they just don't get what we're going through.
100%. And I feel honestly like so many of the people that I've met in our community, I would consider them lifelong friends.
Yes.
Some of them, I FaceTime them a couple times a week. We chat about everything in our lives. And nobody can beat those kind of relationships that we build because they get us and they support us 100% of the time.
Yes.
So, what kind of advice would you recommend to someone similar in your journey? Like maybe some mindset tips that you would recommend?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I apologize if you're hearing jets flying over. We are in San Diego, and our backyard is a canyon where they actually, like, that area is where they filmed Top Gun. So it's Miramar Base is like right there. So anyway.
I'm actually used to that. My brother was stationed over there in the Marines, so it's kind of neat.
That's awesome. Okay, so mindset tips. I think the biggest thing for me has been that I am a workaholic. I'm a very type A personality. And knowing that I need to slow down sometimes is very hard for me, but it's okay. And so just knowing that it's okay to listen to my body and give myself that rest when I need it. I'm not being lazy. I'm actually doing the most productive thing I can do because I'm going to prevent myself from going into a flare.
I think that's a really important tip to recommend to all people, actually. So you come across like you have a really positive attitude. So how do you maintain having that positive outlook despite your challenges?
Yeah. I think I've always been kind of an optimistic person. I am definitely a glass half full kind of person who just takes things on. And like I said at the beginning, this journey has been hard. I have a little bit of cramp right now going on, and it's like it's in the back of your mind always. But it's opened up so many opportunities to help people. And I always go back to I'm here for a reason. And if I can use my pain and my struggles to help anyone else, then that makes me feel good. And I'm a big Friends TV show person. We watch it like every night before we go to bed. But there's an episode on like you can't actually do a selfless act. And I love that episode because it's so true. As much as I'm trying to like serve other people, it gives me so much joy to help people and talk to people. So I think that helps me get through the hardest days is knowing that, it's helping others, but helping fill my cup up too.
I think that's a wonderful point for people to remember is honestly, the more that we do for others, it's going to fill us up every single time. And it's just such a great thing to do in our community because sharing your story, it's going to help someone. And so sitting alone in a quiet room and just mourning the life we want to have, it's not going to help us. But serving others is going to lift them up, but it's also going to help us in the long run too.
Yes. Yes. I mean, those hard days are hard. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
Like, there have been many a nights where I just cry, especially the shoulder pain, the nerve pain. You're trying to sleep, and laying down is like the least comfortable position that it can be. And I've woken up in tears, and my husband is just like, I don't know how to help you. Like, I just need to cry for a minute and move on,
yeah.
But I think that all
So, have you tried a TENS unit?
I do use a TENS unit. That
Okay.
is definitely helpful.
I wish I would have tried one years ago when my dad first tried to tell me to use one. It was like magic. Granted, it's not a cure all, and the moment I take it off, I feel like it's just going to come right back. But in the moment, it definitely helps soothe what's going on.
There are days where I just leave it on and like, it'll run in 15 minute cycles. So I'll give it a little break because I'm not sure if there's a time maximum that you should have it on. So I'll let it take a little break, but I leave those stickers on all day and just keep turning it on when the pain gets to be a little too intense.
Nothing beats that feeling. I don't even know how to recommend or not recommend, how to explain it because it's almost like a vibrating tickle. How would you explain it?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's basically a distraction for your brain, right? Like it's not actually necessarily doing anything for your muscles or things like that. I mean, maybe a little bit of release in there, but it's more just something else for your brain to focus on than the pain.
That's probably a good explanation. Okay, so my next question for you is for inspiration, who or what lift your spirits on difficult days?
I have a lot of people. I'm very lucky to have a very big circle of family and friends who care about me. My dogs probably are the number one supporters. I have two Carolina dogs, and I have a tattoo on my arm of my puppy's paw print. And there's, all animals are amazing. My dog Flick is like my other half. It's a weird connection. He has IBD as well. So we understand each other. He actually had a flare up last night, and we were up every like 30 minutes to let him out. But he's a very good reader of me and my emotional state. So he always is like right up at my face if I'm feeling a lot of pain, and he'll lay on my stomach when I have stomach cramps. I don't know how he knows, but he just finds he'll be my little heating pad. So
I think pets definitely know. They just know when we're in pain, when something's going on. They just know.
yes,
My
yes.
cat does the same. My cat likes to wake me up every morning by crawling up on my head. It's crazy. I can't even make up the weird stuff she does to me. Okay, as far as resources, can you recommend either 3 accounts, articles, blogs, websites, anything? Is there 3 things for resources you want to recommend?
Oh, that is a good question. I would probably, all of our ambassadors at Invisible Voices have been an amazing support to me. So I can send you their accounts to link in show notes or things like that. But Caitlin and Jill and KK and Joe have all been just so amazing whenever I need to reach out to them. And they have all had their illnesses. Most of them have had it a lot longer than I have. So, dealing with things, several of them have ostomy bags. So, I don't know about you. I was terrified that that could be even a possibility in my future. And just talking to them and realizing how much it's helped their life, is huge, and just a huge piece for me. So there are several really good accounts that I've followed for information and things. Dr. Will Bolschowitz, Dr. B, has I think he's the Gut Health MD on Instagram. He's been a huge resource for me. There's also another pediatrician GI that I follow that it just comes up with really helpful reels and things like that. So definitely diving into that. There's a book called Mastering Diabetes that I really recommend in a way that really helps. Rich Roll, Dr. Rich Roll is a huge podcaster, and he has a great podcast that deep dives. I mean, his podcasts are like 3 or 4 hours long usually, but he'll do a lot of deep dives with all kinds of professionals, everything holistic, So I think that's the biggest thing that I would recommend is diving into those avenues. I am all for medicine and surgery when it is warranted. But if I can do everything else in my power to hold that off or to need some of that a little less, then that's what I do. So most of the research and learning that I've done, it revolves around what other things can I incorporate in my life. Not so much what can I take away. Some stuff I took away, but more what can I do? What can I add to my life that helps me feel better?
Is there any last tokens of advice that you would like to share?
I am just so thankful for you and everyone in the community that are sharing their stories and helping others share our stories. And don't be scared to reach out to any of us. I know sometimes my DMs back up, and I feel awful that I'm having a bad day and I'm not getting back as fast as I can, but I'm always there, and I check my DMs daily. And if people need support and, things, then I'm happy and love that I get to talk to people. So don't be scared to share your story or to reach out to others in the community. We have to get through this together.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, so where can we send people to find and follow you?
You're amazing. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to share. And if anybody wants to come follow me, the.invisible.voices on Instagram is our Instagram page. Theinvisiblevoices.com is our website. And we're kind of in the process of rebuilding. When we originally started, I wanted to start a cool community that had some apparel to kind of, like inspiring apparel, not necessarily just, I do have one shirt that says I have IBD, and the IBD is crossed out, and it's a disease that makes you strong AF. So we do have like some that are specifically illness related, but then also more just inspiring, like be strong, keep going, unstoppable, those kind of shirts, sayings, and sticker sayings that we have. I have one on my bottle right behind me that says Akuna Matata, just like just inspirational sayings and things like that I felt like we could use as a community. But as we started going through the process of creating that business and realizing that I'm honestly horrible at crafting or any kind of stuff like that, we have recently in the last year kind of switched gears on everything that we're focused on. And there's merch that's still available. That's like, if you love our community and you want to rep some merch, cool. But more so, we are focused on growing the community itself within a platform that allows us to chat and connect as Spoonies. Once you get inside, it's kind of like an organized Facebook group, because we all hate Facebook groups, right? Like there's so many notifications, and when you do want to find something, it's completely lost in space. So it's a very organized and nice group where you can actually go to a certain topic. Maybe it's IBD, or maybe it's another illness. You can also search for like Spoonie Mamas or things like that pertain to certain things that you're going through, insurance, different categories that help you with whatever struggle you might be going through. So we've developed that community. And also, I was listening to a podcast that was like, what are you best at? What brings you joy? That's what you should be doing. So obviously, I'm a fitness professional, and I've done a lot of research in nutrition and fitness. So we've brought that to the community as well. So we're offering like classes and modified classes so that it's chair or mat Pilates, or just stretching. Sometimes just stretching feels so good. So we've kind of moved throughout the years. This has been since 2021 that we started. And throughout the years, we've kind of shifted where we're like, we don't want to just make t-shirts. We want you to wear t-shirts if you want to love our community so much that you want to share it. So that was a long story of a redirection. But we have started to do some acts of kindness. We've done a lot of donations on the merch and stuff. So a lot of the percentage of our profits go to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, other organizations, Trevor House we did last year. And we actually have even a coloring book that I know my mom is an artist, and she and Kate worked really hard on getting a coloring book that is just for inspiration. It's for any illness, any kind of recovery that you might be going through. Art therapy is incredible. And as a non-artist and a non-crafty person, I can say that even I, when I'm really hurting, will sit down and color some of the pages just to take my mind off things. So a percentage of that coloring book goes to donations and things like that. And we've started to do some random acts of kindness in the community. We started with just paying for people's hospital parking, because that little extra bill on top of all the other bills adds up. So I'm hoping we've dropped off a lot of coloring books at hospitals and things to just donate those. But we're hoping to do so much more as this community grows. So yeah, that's kind of what Invisible Voices is all about.
Wow. I am so excited. I wish I could just share this episode today. But thank you so much for being here and sharing all about what you do. And I guess, my Spoonie sisters, until next time, don't forget your spoon. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.